My question to you, how long are you married?
31 years.
After 31 years, you're asking this question?
Sounds like Fiddler on the Roof. She said. I thought it was so funny with the wife on Fiddler on the Roof.
Well, she has young children too, I'm sure. It's an interesting topic. How do you really know that if the person you married is truly your soulmate?
If people who live together 31 years, do you think you loved your husband more when you got married? Or do you think you love him more now?
Definitely more now.
Why? When you got married, you were excited, was something new. Why would you, after 31 years, you're not tired of the same person?
Not tired, but some expectations are still there. That's what makes me doubt. I mean,
So how come you love him more now than you loved him 31 years ago? Then you didn't know him that much. You should love him unlimited. But now you already know what's his problems, what's his deficiencies. So you should go lower. But you're saying it's the opposite. How do you explain that?
well, it was a totally different feeling then and now. It was based on so many other things. And now it's based more on reality and other subjects. The subjects of relationship is so changed from then to now.
Why?
I mean, maybe it has to do something with age, maturity, I don't know.
Since last week's class was discussed about love, we will come back to the same topic. We will discuss it. Hopefully by the end of tonight, so you can identify that you married your soulmate. And we will soon, there is a whole chart. I don't know if you looked in your book, but there is a whole chart. How do you define a soulmate? We will get to it in a few minutes.
No.
Yeah, what if
It's
you marry
too-
one person?
So, first of all, there's a famous story about an Amish father and son. They're traveling and they come to a huge mall. First time in their lives that they're going to see a new mall in life. They're so impressed with everything that's going on because they never saw in their town anything close to that. And one of the things that they are amazed is two silver doors, open and close. So they stand and they watch. What's going on? Those silver doors open and then close, open again and close again. And then they see a woman coming in on a wheelchair, presses a button, the silver doors open up, she goes in, and they see numbers going up, 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 up. And they are so amazed. And then after a few minutes, they see the numbers go down, down, down. And suddenly walks out a young, beautiful woman, 24 years old. The father looks at it and he's so amazed. He says to his son, "Run quickly, bring your mother here. She should walk into those doors."
Is there a definition for soulmate?
Absolutely.
How do you define soulmate?
That's what we're going to discuss. So, based on the theory, as we spoke last week about the evolution theory, that focuses what's important for me, what's convenient for me, and it's focused mostly on the body attraction. Only, that's what makes a difference. And why people have love to begin with is the attraction of love is to reproduce. So there will be children, there will be families and so on. which is a very important reason to love each other. Then love is over, you move on. You don't have to stick to something that doesn't attract you, right? That's if you follow the evolutionary theory. But then comes the Torah theory, which is totally different. Torah theory, it says, instead to focus on the needs of the body only, and not to say that the physical attraction is not important here. The physical attraction is absolutely necessary. But that's not the only definition when people choose someone to get married to. The definition is, really it has to be a compatibility of the soul. How do you know if your spouse is compatible, your soulmate or not? Because what Torah teaches us, that your partner in life is the same soul before it came down here. And that same soul was split in two bodies. And after a certain number of years, those two bodies get together. When those two bodies get together, is really the soul is coming back together. And there's a lot of understanding and feelings that you can't even express sometimes. You meet someone and there's a click on this first second sometimes. And they feel like they know each other for years, although they didn't meet ever before. What's that connection? You hear that sometimes from exciting couples. I met my husband the first time and we clicked right away and like we know each other for many years. What does that mean? That means there is a soul connection. Means that there is beyond the level of the body. Because the body changes. Everything that has to do with the body and a physical reality, everything in physical reality will change. Never will stay the same. So, the way we were thinking 20 years ago and now is different. We changed. The way I'm thinking today and 10 years from now will also be different. Everything changes. What does not change? What will remain the same as it was 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, and then 20 years from now too? Same thing is the soul. The soul is the same. Now, how do we identify? What do we need? What's the definition of love? Although we discussed it last week, but we really have to take this and to define it to understand. What does it mean? When I will ask you a question, did you get married for what reason? Would anyone be able to explain to me why? Why did you get married? Let's start with you. I'm sure you had a happy single life. Why would you want to get married?
I could see myself building a life for a very long time with this person. Whereas with other people that I dated, even if I liked them or whatever it was, I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel.
So what do you mean building a life together? Okay, let's take your words and analyze. Building a life together, what does it mean? It means that you saw that there is financial support.
No, not at all.
So what is the meaning of building a life together? Did you feel that you understood your husband better?
Meaning like we could face challenges, move with the tides, whatever would come our way.
You feel you're on the same page,
Yeah.
you understand each other.
Common goals,
Okay, that's one reason.
common values.
Did you feel love then more than now? Or now you feel more love?
No, now I feel more.
Why? Can you define that?
I think because I got to know him better.
Okay, fine, I understand. It's a good reason. Nothing wrong with that. So let's analyze what you just said.
Uh-huh.
When you got married, you felt you can build a life together. Okay, your words. Means, is it about you or about him?
Both of them.
Is it you were looking to benefit, your benefit here? Or were you looking to give to this marriage
giving.
or to take to the
It
marriage,
was
from the
both.
marriage?
It was both.
What would you think would be more important? What would you give? What would you take? You don't have to tell me that, but think in your mind. Is it more to give to the marriage or more you will take out of this marriage?
I
That's-
felt, no, it was almost like moving to a new level that I couldn't do it on my own.
Let's put the question in simple terms. If you would identify what do I want to receive from my spouse, what would be thing number one you want to receive from your spouse? And then what is you want to give to your spouse? If you would take this question, say, am I here to give first and then take later? Or am I here first to take and then to give? Obviously, it's easier to say what is
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
for me to get. To give, you have to think already. What am I there to give? What can I give? And I'm not speaking about on a physical reality. I'm speaking about on a deeper dimension. What is there to give?
You know, I think
Do you
even
give support? Do you give advice? Do you work together? But before we're going there, we have to take the basic elementary level to understand, so then we can go into a higher level, the Kabbalistic, the inner terms. But before we go there, what did I give to the wedding, to the marriage, and what am I taking from the marriage? Alright?
Let me see if my understanding from what you're trying to say is correct or not. I think we want, without knowing, subconsciously probably, we want to get. And even what we want to give, that could even be on a selfish manner. Maybe we even think we can give too much and we are not that capable of giving either. So everything becomes on a level.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Everything becomes on a level of selfishness when, I mean, I'm talking about, I was 18 years old when I got married, so
Okay.
I obviously didn't know much about these things, self, this, that, I wasn't probably mature enough. But as I think about it now, according to what you're saying, it could be very much true because you have certain dreams that you want to build your life probably on the base of those dreams, but those are your dreams, not necessarily it's your partner's dream.
Okay.
So, and probably even your communication level is
And most
not-
probably that your dreams are not exactly what he wants in life.
Exactly.
So you have two different directions sometimes. And people are young and they're getting married, they're excited, and then they realize they get a little bit older, more mature, and they realize, I want to become this and that, and that my spouse wants the opposite. So which direction do we go? Thank God by you it didn't happen, but you're still questioning and doubting, is this my soulmate in life? The answer to your
Because-
question is simple, that definitely the fact that you live with a person and you have children and grandchildren, Bezat Hashem, and you developed a life, it already tells me that this is your soulmate. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to exist such a long time, number one. Number two, we will have to understand that. How do we really define this is my soulmate? We're going to go into the Kabbalistic concept soon. But before we're going there, we can, every day of our lives, we're thinking, am I giving or am I taking? Am I a giver to this unit or am I a taker? Or you can say, can I define what am I giving and can I define what I'm getting? It's much easier to say what I'm getting because that's what I feel. I see that. What I'm giving, I have to think.
I have a question. Does each person have more than one soulmate? Is it possible for one person to have different soulmates and you end up with one of them in life?
Yeah, so
Are there some soulmates that are more right for you? Like
Yeah.
because I feel like so many people could marry different people and be equally happy.
That's exactly my point. That was
Like
my
you could
point.
marry
Yeah.
somebody else and maybe live a different life, but still be happy. Like how do you, like is it possible that each person has more than one soulmate when it comes to marriage?
there is such a thing, a soulmate even for a date. If you date someone, there is already a connection. But should that soulmate is not meant to be your life partner.
Oh, that's interesting.
It could be your partner for the time being that you date each other. Period. Then could be a soulmate, whatever time period people live together, and then time to move on to somebody else. It does exist.
Okay.
There is such a thing. But that means a person will go through difficulties in life and suffering. It's not easy to switch mid-life what's happening in life, you know. It's not an easy transition. Any transition is difficult.
Sure.
But we're asking God, do not test us. Because it's a huge test for the person to go through different, even when people date, they get exhausted, they get upset, and didn't work, and this didn't work. They just don't understand that there's a higher reality that controls and watches everything and knows this is for the date, that's not for life. There will be next one, but you couldn't meet your life one before you have this one because that's steps to get to your right one.
But I think I understand her question where I think that an 18-year-old girl that gets married is really, how do you know at 18, what do you know about life of who you're marrying and if this person is your soulmate? So you might look back 20, 30 years down the line and say, okay, I got married, thank God, Baruch Hashem, I'm healthy, my husband is healthy, I have children, all that. But really, I mean, I'm sure when she got married, and I'm not sure, I'm just analyzing what she's saying is, really, how do you know? It's like it could have been somebody completely different, completely,
Correct.
I think that's,
Down the line, down the road, as we develop life, and as we said before, that I mentioned that last week. I'm not sure you
no, I
were here.
wasn't here.
Mentioned last week there was a young woman who walked in to the Rebbe, and she complained. She dates different people, and she doesn't feel, attracted to them, and she doesn't feel excited about it. She's okay, they're fine, but I'm not excited. And the Rebbe responded to her that I think you read too many novels. That in novels you can find overwhelming love that takes you over and takes you on a ride very high, and that's it, and they are happily married after. It's not the way it is. Life is different. Life begins with excitement, but then reality hits hard, and then you have to build that love, nurture that love on a daily basis. How do you keep love going for years and years and years? And you saying that you love now, 30 years later, more than you got married.
It's a totally different
Different type
definition.
love. Why? Because a true love is built up step by step. It's not comes overwhelming, takes you over, and you feel you're in love over your head, and that's it. That's for the rest of your life. Something that comes fast goes fast. Something that comes easy and slow.
But I think that
stays
love
long.
has to exist initially, so if you do go through your obstacles, you always have that initial connection to go back to.
Obviously, people should not get married if they don't feel
Right.
there is a connection. I am sure even an 18 years old girl that gets married, she might see somebody else say, I'm not interested in that person. And then meet this person say, yes, I'm interested in this one. She's only 18, what does she understand? But there is not a mind connection, there is a soul connection. That the soul feels something closer to this person and not to that person.
Is it like you're comfortable with that?
Correct.
That type
You
of
feel comfortable, you feel you are on the same wavelength, you feel like you can communicate.
Like you might have the distinction. You might have a crush on someone, but you can't even talk to them because
Correct.
you're so attracted and overwhelmed. But you're like, no, you can't even talk to them.
Correct.
But someone else, you might you're comfortable. You
Comfortable,
think that's more.
and you feel you want to be there. You miss that person if you don't see them. That means I'm missing my soul.
But that's even like with friends. You could,
Well,
for some
that's-
reason, you like one person and another one, they're nice, but just not
And
into
who
it.
said that friends cannot be a part of a certain destiny of a soul? As
But
we
it
spoke by
is-
the first class, that
My husband was my friend.
I was going to suggest,
I wish, I
I
hope
was going to
so.
suggest that for all the young ladies, that when you're looking to get married,
I can't
that
say
rather than just
Robert,
make that determination by a romantic impulse, looking for a best friend, someone you can really trust, someone that you know that if you have trials and tribulations, that person will support you. I think like being with your best friend, marrying your best friend is your best vehicle towards success. What do you think, Grandma?
Absolutely, there's no question about it. To have a friendship, it's crucially important to build that relationship. However, what is the definition of love?
That's what.
Definitely.
What is the definition of love? What means loving someone?
That's what I wanted to get from the class last week and I couldn't.
Yeah.
If you could love somebody like you love yourself, if you could think in terms of somebody else and want to fulfill them the way you want to be fulfilled. That's the biblical definition. Love your neighbor like yourself. We all love
But how
ourselves.
do you distinguish between different kinds of love? A love that you have for your sister, your mother, your children, your husband.
Obviously, with a man, it takes on also a romantic
See, that's what I.
situation, but
They are suggesting that there is not this romantic.
well,
It's more of a soul
there's a
thing.
sexual situation between a
Is
husband
it
and a wife that
sexual?
is.
Does Hasidut believe in sexual attraction, part of the love?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is all part of a unity between the two souls. That the bodies come together.
What he's
Absolutely.
saying, if you're attracted, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily your life partner. Might not be the right choice.
Or
for
vice
you.
versa, if you look at the hunchback,
Yeah.
Correct.
you might not be physically attracted, but he might still be your
See,
soulmate.
exactly.
Exactly.
So,
So let me repeat a story that we started last week, but we didn't conclude it. A young couple, married for 7 years. They have 3 beautiful children, very happily married. This young couple met 12 years earlier. And when they dated each other, they liked each other, but they both felt it's not for us. 5 years went by, They didn't meet each other. They didn't think about each other. 5 years went by and they happened to see each other. They met each other, they started to date again. And now they felt they are in love, this is their soulmate, and got married and had beautiful children, happily married. So what happened? When 12 years ago when they dated, they said, definitely not for us. And now, 5 years later, they discovered that they love each other. What happened? Why couldn't they see the same thing 5 years earlier? But the truth is, based on their experience at this point, for sure they are soulmates. No question about it. But in order to become a soulmate, you have to also understand, I am willing to give up my whatever I'm doing and focus to become a soulmate. Now, 5 years earlier, the man started just a business. His mind and goal was to build up the business. He didn't have time for a relationship. To build a relationship with someone, that will take away his time and his efforts. He didn't mind to see her once in a while, but didn't want to build a relationship. He was focused on himself. She just switched jobs, and she also started a career. She says, I'm not ready for committing myself now. I want to build my career. So each one of them were looking into themselves, not looking to build a relationship. So in order to create a relationship, to build a relationship, is not to ask what I can take, it's what I can give. How can we meet together? And what can I contribute to this relationship? Because if we understand the goal of the relationship is really to grow together and we become a new unit, each one has to understand, I am willing to give something to this relationship. I understand this is my highest priority in life, that this would work. If a person can come to that realization, then the relationship would work. If a person is...
both people come to the realization? I mean, if one of them comes to the
Absolutely not.
realization
So
and the other one doesn't,
they're not compatible then. They're
At
not...
that time and space.
Correct. They're not focused on the same direction. For a marriage to happen, both parties have to feel the same way. I am excited about this relationship. I want to give everything what I have for this relationship to happen. Both of them. If one of them feels the other one doesn't, means it's not good for the other one. Or it's not the right time. Either one.
don't people also give in different ways? I mean, there is not just one way of giving. Each person has one ability. I mean, he or she is talented in one kind of giving. Is that true?
Correct.
So what if their kind of giving doesn't meet?
So they're not compatible. If they cannot work together, if they don't see eye to eye together, they don't have the meeting of the minds. The meeting of the minds is crucially important. The meeting of the hearts is the foundation of everything, of love, of marriage, begins the heart feels. And the attraction, the minimal attraction that you need, the minimal at least, that I'm attracted to my spouse. That minimal attraction can be built on top of it. So it has to be 3 levels. Had to be the physical, basic attraction. Yes, we are compatible. We feel comfortable being next to each other. Before I feel anything, before I understand each other, we just feel comfortable next to each other. That's number 1. After that comes the next level. I feel something about this person. That feeling is the heart talking, the emotions expressing, which is, again, the expression of the soul to the heart. And then you go to the next level, is the mind. Do we understand things the same way? Can we help each other to understand better? Or we always disagree with each other? So those three levels are crucially important to build that foundation. If the basic attraction is there, if the feelings of the heart is there, and the minds meet and understand each other, that means it is compatible. That means it's compatible and the marriage will work. However, it's not everything. There is two more levels beyond that.
These 3 levels are before marriage.
And during marriage. Those 3 levels are on a day-to-day basis, are a must to have it. Day in and day out, those 3 levels, this attraction, this feeling, and the understanding. See over here on this graph, that's called the nefesh. The soul is divided in 5 different parts, which is nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya yichida. Nefesh is the basic physical attraction. Nefesh. That applies when you date, when you meet someone. Is there attraction? Is there anything happening? I would even say, like you mentioned before, a crash on someone. It's still nefesh. It's still the basic.
Crash,
crash, whatever. The whole idea is it's a physical concept. It's not something that has to do with the mind or feeling. Then you can go to ruach. Ruach connects to the heart. What is the emotion feels, and how do we feel for each other? Are my emotions are that I miss, I need it, I wanted to be next to that person, or not? That's already comes to the level of ruach, where ruach means spirit. The word ruach means spirit. It's the spirit of the relationship that we're speaking about. To tell you only, if there is no nefesh, cannot be ruach. Must be in that order. That first must be the physical attraction, but cannot remain the focus on the physical. Has to immediately move on to the next level if there has to be a continuation, and that means go to ruach, which ruach means I have to develop that attraction, physical attraction to my feelings. If I don't feel anything, I'm just attracted to that person. Oh, it's a beautiful movie star, but I don't feel anything for that person. There is nothing will be further. After there is a development, and that takes time to develop the feeling of the ruach, comes the level of neshama. Neshama is the highest level, and that's the mind, which has to be the intellectual part. Do you challenge your husband or your spouse intellectually? Do you discuss with your spouse intellectual concepts? Or we just day-to-day work? The intellectual meaning of the mind is also crucially important. Why? Because that's the way you understand, the way I see things, the way my spouse sees, and so on. So, to summarize, that the nefesh is the attraction, is the lowest level. On top of it comes the ruach. Without the ruach, the heart, nothing can happen. And then we develop how do we perceive things together. And that comes with time.
Rabbi, I was told neshama was also like your sense of right and wrong, your morality. That part of your soul controls your morality. Is that
That's
true?
the intellect. Yes, obviously. We understand the intellect is the one who controls and controls the heart too. Sometimes the heart says, I love this person, but the intellect says it's harmful for you. It's not good for you. The mind has to be in control of the emotions. Because sometimes, yes, I want it, I got it, I saw it, I love it. But the mind has to be always the judge, final judge. Okay? There is two levels, you felt fine. Is there a connection? And is it good for me? That in an intellectual level, they can talk, they can exchange ideas, and be able to communicate. So those three are how the soul expresses itself in the body. It means the soul comes into the body first, goes to neshama goes to the mind moves to the ruach, to the heart, and then the physical. But when we build the relationship, we have to start from the bottom. First nefesh, which is the physical attraction. Then we go to the ruach, and then we go to neshama. So far it's easy and understood. What's the Torah above that? The neshama has two more levels that is beyond where the body can, it's not actually inside the body. And that's called chaya and yichida. Chaya means I have a vision what I want to see in myself in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Can I share my vision with my spouse? Can we share the same vision together? That's called chaya. Chaya means life. How life will perpetuate and continue together. And then there is another level, which on that level is very, again, that's the stable level, the stability of a marriage, called yechida. Yechida in Hebrew, anyone speaks Hebrew here?
Oh.
Unit. One unit. That's the essence, how the unit comes together. That's yechida. Shows one unit. And that's the essence of everything, is to become one unit. If we can share all this together, that marriage will be forever. Can never change. Because if we base our marriage based on attraction, based on my feeling, even based on my intellect, all three can change. With time, people change, minds change, feelings change, and so on. But chaya and yechida never changes. That's the essence. And that vision, chaya and yechida, goes forever. And that's the reason why a person can have three attractions, attraction, ruach, and neshama, and mind, and still something would not work. After a while, they say, we tried everything, nothing worked. Why? Because there is no vision. There is no long-term plan that they carry together. And then there is not the essential unit of them together. So they might reach even the third level of neshama, but they will be missing the stability of that marriage that will endure forever. So in order to endure a marriage together, you cannot be satisfied with nefesh, ruach, neshama. You have to build what's the vision, and how this vision creates the unit within us. One of the things that we discussed, how to endure that love. Okay, we got married. We realize we are compatible with nefesh, ruach, neshama together. But how do we really know I should be able to continue that love? Love should grow with the time. And what happens if we have a disagreement sometimes? Do I have always to give in? It's a very important matter in the family. And I think this way, and my spouse thinks the other way. What happens then? Okay, we are compatible, we feel for each other, but comes to an argument, totally different. And I feel I'm right, and the spouse feels also I'm right. What happens then? How do you settle such a dispute? Obviously, there is no family that there is no differences of opinions. So there are several ways to solve such a disagreement. One simple way is one is very dominant, the other one is weak, and one says, listen, my way or the highway. This is the way it has to go. Because I know 100%, and with such a strength, with such a, and they wear out the spouse, and the spouse is okay, I'm weak, I don't want to fight, okay, the way you want, fine. That's one way. Means someone is dominant, someone is in control, and controlling the spouse. Which in a way, the spouse can give in, but they keep a grudge. And when there is a grudge, cannot be a vision and cannot be a unit. Can be okay, intellectually I understand, I give in, okay, I feel for you even, I keep, but I feel something now unhappy about it. Could be also a compromise, as we discussed last week. Most of the class I understood the best way to settle a dispute is compromising, right? Anyone disagrees with that? No? Compromising sounds very reasonable. Compromising means I will give in here and you give in there. Compromising also means that there is my goals and there is your goals, and now I'll give you up my goals this time so you can give up your goals next time. What kind of marriage is that? What kind of unit is that? Is that the way to build a unit? That's where we came to a new concept that God gifted us with a tool. That this tool allows us to enter to the soul connection.
Why is this bad, compromise?
Compromise is good. I didn't say it's bad. It's definitely better than fighting. But it means there is two entities here. And each entity pulls to a different direction. And they say, okay, I'll compromise, I'll give in this time, but next time you have to give in. It means there is still two separate entities. What is a marriage supposed to be? A marriage is not two separate goals. It's all one direction. But how do we think each one has the same direction? If I think this way and my spouse thinks the other way. If I think right, the spouse thinks left. And so forth. How can we meet? The minds can meet. Okay, I'll compromise to the middle. So I'm not happy, the spouse is not happy. Because we are both didn't get nothing. So who is happy with that? We still didn't feel that we built anything with that compromise. And in order to build a marriage, that's the key in a home, is to have a goal together. That we have a vision, a certain direction, where we're heading. If we don't have that vision, nothing in life will be productive as a couple. So that's where we came to the concept, an idea that God gifted us with a very crucial tool to reach to the soul. How does a person reach to our soul? We all know we have a soul, we have a body. To reach our body is very simple. You touch the body, you reached it. How do you reach the soul? Not my soul, but the soul of my spouse even. Which is the same soul. How do we reach into the soul? Do you remember?
Bittul.
Bittul. What does bittul means?
Self-nullification.
What do you mean? You have to become nothing? What does self-nullification bittul means?
Does it mean selflessness?
Humility. Humility?
Could be humility. So you have humility, okay? So you lower your ego. So what does that bittul means? How do we nullify to get into the soul, to touch the soul? It's a very interesting concept, because that concept is really opposite what we feel with our own bodies. What's the most basic thing in life? Everyone wants to survive. To survive, people do anything and everything, right? They'll do whatever it takes to survive. Again, self-nullification is against your own grain. What do you mean? You're going to nullify myself? When I feel certain direction, I want something, I will give up? For what? The only way we can understand that as we gave the example, in order to recreate something new that was not there before, as singles, we had a wonderful life. Why would we give up this comfortable life to get married to someone and now always think what the other person thinks about it, and I have to accommodate and live with that person? What are we doing that for? But in order to come to this level, we have to become a little bit iron, it's called. There is 3 levels, it's called. I don't know, I cannot find it over here yet. But it means as follows. If we come from one reality of life and move to a different reality of life, we have to go into a process of emptiness in between. And I will soon explain myself. Just remember, yesh, that's the Hebrew word reality. Speak Hebrew?
Yeah.
Yesh, ayin, yesh. Means there is yesh, one reality, but in order to achieve a beginning of a new, total new reality that I cannot achieve in the way I am now, I have to go back to 0 and start from there again. That's the only way we can achieve a new level. And the example to that is when we take a seed that we want to grow, we take the seed and we plant it to the ground. What happens to that seed?
Disintegrates. Yeah.
Disintegrates. Rottens. And where it's rotten, from that location begins to grow a tree. So this seed was a reality of, you can see it. It's a reality, a seed. That seed went into the ground, became nothing, and from there began a new step. Which that step is the step of a new tree, a new reality. In life, many, many times, we have to go through those stages in life. Each person has different destinations and different reasons that we have to go through those stages. We don't know why. That's God's leading us certain direction. But we know one thing for sure. For a single person to turn to become a happy married person, you have to go to that transformation. What is the definition of love? That's the question, was transformation. Love means transformation. Transform yourself wherever you were before to a new reality. It's not what I want to get, it's what I want to give here.
So is that really true love?
That means a true love.
So it's not automatic loving somebody, like you said.
As we mentioned before,
It's
there
the
is.
first level.
It's
but then
nefesh.
ultimately-
It's attraction. The first level is attraction.
Ultimately is that.
But ultimate level of love is transformation. You're willing to transform yourself to become something different.
So it is an evolving soul.
So let me just go further one step. I didn't finish with that yet. Means, in a simple term, a person with our physical bodies, with our goals as we are limited to a certain point. We are limited to a certain point. But we need to get to a much higher reality in life. How can we get to that new reality in life? We have to be transformed to a new level. Transformation means leave alone my personal egoistic reality aside. For the sake of us both to transform to a new level, we both put aside our separate goals and let's focus together to where we're heading. So not we are compromising here, because compromising means no one is happy, but on the contrary, we totally move aside our personal goals for a higher reality. We're transforming our love into simple new reality that we both merge together. That's what's called true love. Transformation to a new reality. What's the reason that it's necessary? Now you can ask the question before I'm going into explain that.
To a certain extent, is the transformation have to do with adopting the other person's beliefs or accepting?
No. There is again no two people here. There is each.
No, but if you're adopting the other person, then
There is
You're
no
becoming
adopting.
one.
you're
No, it's not. That's what I'm trying to explain to you again. Before there is transformation happens, each person has their own goal. And that's like two forces running in the two different directions in the same house. Where will they end up? Even when you compromise, still remains two forces always competing with each other, and my way and your way, what's your way, what's my way. That's not going to be a home. It's not going to be a happy home, for sure not. The only way it can turn to become a happy home if a person begins to understand, I cannot have a separate goal just to think about myself. We have to think about our mutual goal together. For that, each one of the parties has to give up their goal into merging to a new reality.
But what if one person isn't willing to do that? One is, the other one isn't.
That's where That's where we
The
come
challenge.
that's where we come to understanding of the minds.
That's why I said, is it if the other one then decides to adopt the other person's
Oh.
belief?
What if you're willing to change
That's
if your
good, that's-
husband is
that's-
Let me
or vice
let me
versa?
just tell you.
That
Okay.
was what I was saying.
Very good question.
Can I say something? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So maybe is to challenge yourself to see how much you want to grow that relationship, or how much it's worth to you, or how much better you can make the life with that.
Okay. What's important, how can you able to change the spouse?
You can.
You don't want to change the spouse, number one. Number two, but you need transformation of both. It begins with myself. My own bitul, my own transformation. The moment the spouse realizes how you are willing to put everything aside for the sake, and they see a true bitul, they adapt your view of transformation. It will take time, but it will happen. Because love has the power of transformation of everything. If they see how you are full of passion and giving up all your ideas of the goal of your side in order to have the bitul and to begin a new reality in life, they too will feel that love, that they need transformation. Otherwise they feel they are missing out on something. And I'll give an example. Let's say a child that is a teenager. And a teenager normally rebels and so on. How do you transform them? Same way.
Gentle.
With love. Not by yelling, screaming, telling them what to do. Just give them love, unconditional love. And they will reciprocate 1,000 times as much. When the spouse feels that there is bitul on your side, and you doing everything for the sake of building up that unit
What
together,
if you really disagree with a certain whatever it is? How could you do bitul with something that you completely believe that it's wrong? Maybe.
if it's morally wrong, it's one thing. But it could be disagreement means there is two sides to the
I understand,
coin.
but morally different people, like even you and your husband morally could have different opinion about a moral issue, even though you might agree about many things, but about, let's say, certain thing, what's acceptable for him might not be acceptable for you, or vice versa.
Also there, you need, first of all, to have that love,
The understanding.
to understand the other side. If you begin to understand what the other side is saying, and you feel for that other person, first of all, you're not already against it as much. That's number one. If there is missing that feeling of understanding, where is your spouse standing, and to walk into their shoes, to feel what they feel, then obviously it's creating two separate directions. So number one, the bitul helps you to understand where they're coming from. When they see how much you went and how far you went for the sake of building up, they will learn from you what means, and that's where you will have to discuss this class with them. So they can learn also to understand. The spouses have to understand that. If they don't learn, they will never understand.
Bitul comes from the word levatel, to cancel something.
Correct.
So you're basically
Cancel your own ego.
cancel your own.
Cancel your own direction to your way.
What's right.
My way is the correct way. No, there is no such a thing. There is a new reality that neither of them is right. And both of them will adapt to a new reality that will be the correct way.
So you really have to see things from their point of view to understand it. You have to put
That
yourself
would
in
be
their
step
shoes.
number one. But it doesn't mean that you have to accept their point of view.
But by you understanding it and validating
It's
your
already
feelings,
bringing them
it's
closer
gonna
to
bring
you.
you closer.
You can adopt anything, and I'll share with you the power of a woman's mind. The Torah says that a woman is Ikar Habayit. The most important power of the house is the woman. I'm sharing a little secret with you. Ladies. So whatever the woman decides, that's the way it will go. But in order for that decision it should go, has to be coming from Bitul. And now, is
You have to cancel
Bitul,
your ego.
is Bitul weakness or strength?
It's strength. Ultimately,
If-
if you can do it.
If a person is weak, that's why you change your mind. I'm weak, I cannot fight my spouse, I have to give in. Okay, that shows again, okay, I'm giving in, I'm compromising here, means. But there is a rift. There is two directions. But when there is not weakness, but there is an inner strength, I have the strength, and because I have the inner strength, I know how to control and nullify my way in order to reach a new way where both of us can merge together. That's comes strength. And it's a very powerful, strong tool to reach the neshama, the soul. And from that soul perspective, there is no differences whatsoever. Because when you reach that level of the soul, both spouses will feel that's the right way to do that. Yeah.
Do you have a practical example, like in everyday life, that would explain what
Absolutely.
you mean?
Absolutely.
Meaning from what the disagreement is between the two, how they they each transform, and how they each basically compromise, or whatever the other word was.
Good question, Charlotte.
I need examples.
You are absolutely correct. Examples are
I need,
very
you know
crucial.
what? It's like you need
Yeah, it's
the
like
rule,
how do you-
and then you need to
how do
apply
you-
the
how
rule
do
to
you
the fact
apply it
pattern.
to like your everyday life, because there's so many like challenges.
It's not about him or her. It's not about my direction or your direction. It's about our direction. That's the key word. That's number one to understand. Let's say you disagree about something. Obviously, you can say, I think my way is right. And it could be very much that you are correct. Your spouse will say, my way, I think, is definitely the correct way.
Mhm.
And here becomes my and you,
Mhm.
me and you. So begin to understand, why am I thinking this way? What's the reason why I'm disagreeing with my spouse? What's the reason? So first of all, you have to find a definition to understand, why am I saying this way is correct? Why cannot be my spouse is correct? What's the reason? Because I feel my own ego, and I feel this is the way it should be. But if you nullify that part a little bit, and think, why is my spouse thinking the other way? And you both have the same goals. Begin to understand where your spouse is coming from. Then you begin to see there is a new road that both of you can meet together.
But that's only if you understand his side.
His
What
side
if you
or
really
your
don't
side?
understand?
That's the
I will
difficult
get into that
to-
in a minute, because that's the most difficult part, and that's called bitul. Bitul means that as long as you think I am right, you can never walk into their shoes. Because I am the one who's right. How can I ever even think about it that they can be right? That's where it begins. It means that if I cannot understand my spouse, means I don't have bitul yet. And if I don't have bitul, means I don't have transformation. How can my spouse have transformation? It's
But
all
what if-
begins from me.
But what if you don't understand it because it hurts you or upsets you by that action or lack of action, whatever that it is that is upsetting you, okay, I understand the bitul is like stepping over your ego and saying, okay, that doesn't matter. It really may be because of this X and Y, we can understand or whatever. But what if it's really hurting you? Don't you think that it would be a build-up in you, that if for many years you just bitul everything and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter, it's like
It's
what
not-
he's thinking?
I'm not speaking over here to keep grudges. What you speaking is compromises. What you describing is exactly what's called compromising. Compromising happens because, okay, you always, okay, I'm forgiving, I'm closing my eyes, I'm
Right.
not saying anything, okay, you're building up your anger inside of you.
So
Right.
it's really actually getting to understand the other side.
So as long as you build up your anger,
But when you're disagreeing with something, it's very difficult
I
to
understand.
understand.
I understand that.
Because that's what's
Obviously.
causing the conflict, or else you wouldn't feel that way in the beginning to do the bitul anyway.
There's no question about it. But you did not resolve the matter. You always have to go back to the beginning. Because you build up now so much resistance over here that you don't allow anymore room
Right.
to communicate. So first of all, you have to go to the beginning. Sometimes you have to go years before. You remember what happened then and then? You know, what happened? He moved on with life already. He doesn't remember what happened yesterday. You talk about years ago. However, that's crucially important because that's where began your first grudge. You have to remove step by step and then discuss about it. And one by one to diffuse them. Takes time. It's not happening in a minute. But patience and focus, slowly, step by step, you must to diffuse those feelings. Otherwise you can never have that understanding of your spouse. You will never be able to. And that family will never be able to grow together. So that's crucially important. Where the crowd last week spoke about compromise, and I let it go because there was no time to discuss. But we're discussing now the real level. The real level is not to keep the grudge. Okay, you said that. But the real level is to put your thinking, where is my spouse coming from? What is his thinking?
But you do, and I don't think it's holding a grudge necessarily. I don't think that when you do that, it's holding a grudge. Is because you want to understand and you want to do the right thing. But nevertheless, if it's something that bothers you and it hurts your soul or whatever that it is, I don't think you hold a grudge purposely, like saying, "Oh, this happened and I let it go, but I'm still gonna hold a grudge." I don't think that anybody really wants to do that, especially with their husband or somebody that they truly love, you know? But I just think that it's just human nature to, like, if something upsets you, if you don't 100% agree with it and you're just doing it because of whatever reason, because you want to keep the peace, you want to do the right thing, you want to step over your ego and say, it doesn't matter.
But you
I
did
wanna
not
do the right
step
thing.
over your ego because you keep still going, I think my way is correct and look what's happening over
So
here.
you're saying you have to adapt the other person's
No,
view.
no. I said if there is transformation,
What if your way is correct and his way is not correct? I'm not, but I'm really serious.
Okay. The way we
It's very
change
hard.
things, and listen again to me carefully, because that is the
It's a big
most
challenge.
difficult step.
Yeah, how do you change?
The most difficult step is to change ourselves. It's the most difficult step. If I cannot change myself, how can I change somebody else?
Okay, but
How do we change ourselves?
let me make an example. Like, let's say upbringing of the children. Let's say I'm going to different, lectures, and I have the time to do this, and I know this point is the best way of treating my child, and the spouse doesn't have the time to do that, and you bring this point out and you say this is the way. So you are correct, according to your learnings, but he doesn't want to adopt that way. So you are correct. How do you use bitul in this
Okay, very good question.
That's what I mean, like an example.
That's an
Good
example.
example.
Very good question. And it goes back to the idea of bitul. What is that bitul means? Let's say your teenager disagrees with you. What do you do with that? You tell them once, twice, and they say, okay, and they move on and do the same thing again. What do? You're gonna scream at them, they're gonna get angry at you and turn away. What do? And you feel they need to have a change. You shower love on them. Unconditional love, I love you, I care. What do you need? Give. They look on you, what are you, crazy? Look, I'm making you angry. I'm doing things that makes you unhappy, and you're still giving me? The next time you ask something, you don't have to ask twice. It will be done immediately.
What if they take
You know
this
why?
for granted?
You know why? Because when you speak to a child, many times they take their parents for granted. It's true. By the way, a very good point. They do take your parents. But they know to a certain point you usually give them, and then you don't give more than that. Right?
Also to your teenagers,
you have
you're
to,
not supposed
you have to
give
have
up
some
everything.
restrictions, you have to have some guidelines, that's the way a home should function. But sometimes you're doing something above and beyond, and they feel, wow, look what I got from my mother, my father, look what they gave me. And they're excited. The next time you ask, can you please do me a favor, do that? What do you think, they'll say no to you? Why?
My 7-year-old doesn't know.
They're too young. They're too young.
Come on, Charlotte.
Right after I do something.
They,
That just-
7 years old, they still take parents for granted.
Yeah.
It's nothing yet.
Something too much.
It's nothing yet what they can contemplate and think. But teenagers, they already understand a little bit more. Now, your spouse, let's say your spouse wants from you something, and he asks once, twice, you say, it's wrong, it's not correct. Then you say, you know what? Whatever you say, it's fine with me. Here, you want? Here. What happened? You need a wake-up call. Sometimes you need a wake-up call. The wake-up call allows you to get their attention. When you get their attention, then you can talk. As we discussed before, nefesh, ruach, neshama is crucially important before you get to a vision. If you have a disagreement about something, the only way is to talk about it, to discuss it. Open up a discussion about it. Instead to come home and watch TV and we're watching it, well, that's that. You have to have a discussion. Different discussions. Whether you came approach, what he, or whatever. Both spouses have to get together and spend time with each other. Spending time is not just to talk about business or about what happened in the family and life. You have to speak about intellectual concepts. Share it. Talk about it. What do you think about this? Even to take a subject, what is love? What's the definition of love? And discuss it. Do you know what means love of the soul, love of the body? Is there such a concept to discuss about it? No, right?
We would never.
So take a subject that you feel your spouse can talk. You gotta engage them to talk. That's how you spend time together. It's not just spending time, vacation and running around. It's much more than that. Has to be on those 3 levels. Nefesh, ruach, neshama. Has to be the intellectual level as well. If you cannot share the intellectual level, you cannot build a vision, you cannot build a unit. So you're blocked and you're stopping by the intellectual level. So you're not going any further. Feelings always can change. Attraction can change. Mind is more stable. Mind is something that a person understands it's good, they stick to it. most of the time.
So long that you have the mind and the same goal in life,
The
then-
mind,
excuse me, so long that you have that, then everything else kind of falls
well,
in place.
after the mind, you have to have a vision. You have to build that vision.
So long that you have the mind and the vision together, that's
That
the basis
creates
of
the unit.
right marriage.
The basis is the attraction. The basis is feelings, but then you have to develop it to the mind level. Speak and develop concepts that you can discuss intellectually. That idea that I mentioned before would be tool. It's not once a lifetime you have to do that. It's day
No,
in,
it's like every day.
day out.
It's like
It's
your life.
every day
Bravo,
of
you're
life.
making it so difficult.
You're like,
Nothing
how
is
did I get
mine.
this far so far?
It's nothing is mine, and I don't mean that you as a wife has to
But
do that. I mean
ultimately,
your
you're
husband too.
benefiting from it, so.
It's your own benefit. It's the transformation that you will cause in the family. That's the goal. The transformation is the spouse, the children, and how. What's the most important thing in a home? What's
Shalom
the-
Babayit.
How do you achieve that? How do you achieve that?
Stepping over the ego.
Be
The
true.
me too.
That's the big tool. If there is no peace and harmony in the home, there is nothing can work. So if a person is not understanding this essential thing that the bitul is for my own sake, I'm not doing it for somebody else. It's for my own benefit. And then the level of unity becomes a new level, because that's where you enter to the soul, and the soul connects. And the souls connects.
That's where the
to become
Hashem
back to one.
Shekhinah also rests in the home, right?
That's where I want to just touch upon. This, what you see over here, is why do we have that feeling of love? Why do we have to develop that feeling of love? Can't we make just calculation? It's good to live together, it's economical, it's good to have children. That's it, forget about love. What's the idea of that love to begin with? So the whole idea why love exists, it's also because that's the way God, when God created the world, God has feminine and masculine, and it was one. As it says, Zacharon Kiva bara otam, when God created Adam and Eve, they were all one. Body and soul combined. Then God separated male from the female. When the separation became not just in this world, but all the above spiritual worlds and fragments between the male and the female.
Rabbi, I have a question. You said Hashem also has masculine, feminine?
Correct. It's not Hashem, the essence of Hashem, but the extension of Hashem, as we would say. And when that separation happened here below, that separation created a need to reunify. Because when those two pieces come together, we also reunify godliness together. So male and female come together here. It's not just coming together, but we reuniting our own godliness and our own soul come together. So this idea is not just because I feel love. Love is a necessary part to pull together these two parts that are really one. And when our love here happens, it says, Zachu Shechina Benehem, the godliness comes in, reunifies us. That's where God is also reunited. So everything what happens here, we look on our physical eyes and we see just the physical concepts. But it's all really a light, and it reflects the spiritual part. And since the souls want to connect together, the souls want to be reunified, the souls want to be complete, that's why it pushes and touches the body to express in the same way. what level are we able to create at home? Everything is really going to be a happy home. How do we, what's the ingredients to bring happiness to home? Which that's a question of the class for itself, a discussion, but just to summarize in one sentence. Is to bring God back to our home. We tell the children, honor your parents because God tells you to do so. We honor each other because God is in our home. We cannot be ashamed to say simple words. God is here with us. We speak appropriately, and so on. We must bring godliness back to our life. Without godliness, nothing will work. If God is there, then children understand. Why do we respect the parents? Because the parents, God said, they are the one who gave you life. If you respect God, you respect your parents. You respect each other because each one has a godliness in us. God has to be used daily in our routine at home. So the children and the spouse absorb that part. Godliness creates happiness. If you open up in your books, page 47, and that's soulmate checklist.
Uh-oh.
And with that, we'll conclude the class. I'm not going into details of that,
What page?
but let's take
What page? 47.
47. Let's start reading the first line. Go ahead.
Does and will my potential soulmate evoke in me a sense of something beyond myself, helping me reach a great place that I can reach on my own? Continue.
Wait, no.
Think about it a second.
Oh,
About the question. That you can reach something with your spouse that you could not reach on your own. Not just in a physical sense, also in a spiritual sense.
Actually, this one is pretty much the answer to the question that you asked me. What's the difference between then that you met your husband and now?
Okay, let's read next. Go ahead.
Does he challenge and motivate me, or just please me and bring me comfort and companionship?
What do you think? Is it important, that part? To motivate you and challenge you so you grow?
I think both sides of those are important. It's nice to have comfort and companionship, but with someone who challenges and motivates you.
Are you looking for the challenge?
Well, if you don't have the challenge, you won't
You'll never
grow.
grow. That's correct.
She's right. I mean, it's both.
Yeah, next. Let's take, want to take the next two
Is he a
questions?
partner who helps me crystallize and actualize my vision of life? Or does he just agree with me? Is he a true partner in my dreams, not just my companion?
That's what, based what we spoke today, Chaya. Is it a dream? Is there something, a goal together? Are we building a goal together? Go ahead, next one line.
Does my partner feed and nourish my soul? Do I feel magic with the person? Can we consistently generate magic?
So again, are we together creating something, an aura? When we both come into a place, we both create something different than one of us comes in. Next. Let's take two other.
Do I feel compromised in any way in this relationship?
Because compromising is not the
We're supposed not to
ultimate.
feel that.
It's not. Am I reaching my fullest potential in this relationship?
So again, you see, take one more line.
Do I respect and admire my partner's dreams and vision?
Do you respect and admire my partner's dreams and vision? Is it my partner's or it's our dream and vision?
See, each of these questions, they have a lot of discussions hidden in them.
That's why the questions are there. The questions are there by the end of the class. So you will now think what we spoke today and last week and start.
So
Crystallize.
the answers to these have to be a yes? Every single answer?
No.
Not necessarily.
No,
The
it's just-
challenge is.
It all depends. It's
For your own.
food for you to think about.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
understand.
So this is something that you think and crystallize and clarify what's correct, what's incorrect. How do we do that? How can we? And maybe that should be the discussion with your spouse and the next dinner table. One line at a time. Because all of them we can never cover. Go ahead, who's next?
Me? Does my partner just support my efforts? Is he committed as I am to the transcendent element?
Good. Next.
Do I feel that my relationship will be ordinary, or am I excited about the potential and the significance of our relationship? What does that mean?
Is it something ordinary, or each time when your husband comes home, you're excited and you're happy to see him? That's the question. If you feel something special when you are together. Next, one more line.
Will my relationship help other people grow, or is it only a comfortable relationship between my partner and me? And this takes into account family, your children.
Obviously. So we want everyone is part of the dream.
Do I love my partner's love for me, or do I actually love the person, him, herself? So in other words, it's like, do you love yourself or do you love your partner?
Is the relationship for your benefit or is it our benefit?
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Is there a healthy measure of angst in a relationship consistently propelling it to the higher level? Or is the relationship stagnant and complacent, perhaps comfortably so, but nevertheless on a plateau?
So again, we can see how the relationship growing or it's stagnant. Yes.
Can't other circumstances contribute to, let's say, the relationship not growing? Like, I'll use myself as an example. We had like 3 kids right away. So we couldn't like necessarily spend the same amount of time that we did before. So circumstance could sometimes control the velocity of the growth.
It's not quantity time, it's quality time. Before you had much more quantity time with your spouse. Now you can have quality time. And you both appreciate the fact that the quantity doesn't exist any longer, because thank God you have children at home, and it's good, you're both happy about it. Therefore you have to focus to create concentrated quality time. Kids go to sleep, okay, let's have a discussion, let's have a conversation, or talk about it, or a plan, or you have a short vacation where you're going away for a day, whatever. You have to create that. That's the wife's position. You have to.
surprise. I told you I'll book it for you.
Next.
Is crisis in a relationship handled through appeasement and placating, where one partner is pleasing the other, or is it faced head-on as 2 equal partners?
And that's also a very important question. If you're just trying to please each other, or you have a goal where you grow together. So basically, this is a checklist that I think that was your original question when we started the class tonight. You wanted a checklist, how do you find your soulmate? If all this is not enough, then it's a problem. But if
Thank
this
you
is
so much, Rabbi. It was wonderful tonight. Answered a lot of questions.
and as much as you think we answered, it's much more hidden yet. because
Yeah.
there's much more to discuss about it, but we had to cover a certain time, a certain hour, but there is much, much more to discuss about this subject, because we had to cover other areas, but we'll get back to this more,
Thanks.
discuss. Thank you, good night.
Thank you.
Right.
And Rabbi, Bitul also comes into the category of like a gentle persuasion, doesn't it?
Right, that's what we spoke about it also last week.
Gentle
we mentioned.
persuasion. This is for you. What do I call it?
I can understand she
name.
Likewise, Christine, this is the Rabbi's
At
voice
least
and
somebody
say,
does it.
this woman
At
is
least one of
coming
you, right?
in Texas and she needs a resident.
Why don't you come in?
She says she wants to come in before she wants. I have to somehow raise $1,000 for her. She says she has a dining room, but the value is $1,800. I spoke to a couple of brewers. You know, one guy said they did, and the other one said, I'll try to see if they can do the plan tomorrow. About that much, I mean, I called the other lady, and got the
Steve killed me.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night, good night, good night.
Good.
All the best.
In half an hour, we still here. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night, all the
Thank you,
best.
Rabbi.
Thank you, good night.
What?
Her name is Brenda, and she says she suffers from anxiety. She wants to be great. She suggested
Say hello.
Hi, the ladies came
I
to
can't
visit.
have her in my house.
Oh,
There's enough craziness in my
How you
house.
doing? How you doing, Leora? Thank you. The other one filled out the form or not?
Yeah.
No, that's not.
One of the
Don't
two-
you have a hair?
And the other one said she's registered for her.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can't bring her into my house because it wouldn't be healthy for me to have somebody so anxious and upset living with me. I don't have the facility to put her up. So, you know, what do I tell her? Do I tell her that she's welcome to come here if I get her the money? Do I tell her that, you know, she's lucky that I found her a location, she'll learn to make friends, she'll learn to adapt? What do I tell her?
Look, she has to, she's in, huh?
Be flexible.
Yeah.
When you have nothing, you have to be appreciate what you get.
So in other words, you're not amenable.
Even a person who is, first of all, I have a rabbi sleeping there, I don't have a room.
Right,
I cannot put the,
L'chaim, is it?
yeah, I cannot put people, it's
Right,
not,
so I have
It's not a
to tell,
hotel.
so I have to tell her that.
it's also has activities
Or do I go with people in Greatneck and say I have this?
to close the
Yeah,
camera
do
there.
I do it?
Camera, just press it in the back.